Welcome to the Farmstead Forum podcast. Today we're diving into the art of cooking from scratch, a cornerstone of homesteading that brings health, flavor, and a sense of accomplishment to your kitchen. We'll explore essential pantry staples, must-have cooking appliances, and smart meal planning tips. Plus, we'll discuss how sharing meals can strengthen family bonds. Whether you're a seasoned homesteader or just starting out, this episode is packed with practical advice to elevate your cooking game and transform your mealtime experience. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the Farmstead Forum podcast, where we say come grow with us, your southern home for all things homesteading. Come learn about how to cook from scratch today. I'm your host, Emily Faulkner, and today I am joined by my mom, Holly Israel. So when I thought about this topic, I couldn't think of anyone better to talk about cooking from scratch but my mom, because she taught me everything that I know. And I think this applies to homesteading because homesteading kind of starts in the kitchen with preserving what you grow, but also, learning to can and do those things. But you first need to learn how to prepare a good meal from scratch. And to do that, you need certain tools to succeed. So first of all, I'm going to start with asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself, Holly, and how you started cooking from scratch.
Okay, well, good to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I grew up in a totally different time than you have, and those who like Reagan and Holly, how modern everything is. I still remember going to visit my grandparents in Florida and going to one of the first fast food restaurants with a drive-through. And it was so exciting. We could actually get our food in the car, eat it on the way, and it was just such a strange appearance and occurrence. And now they are appearing everywhere. They're on almost every corner. So it's just a different time. It's a faster paced time, and sometimes we need to slow down and take a step back, and you almost have to make yourself do it. And that's my first recollection of a fast food place, restaurant, and my first recollection of cooking and of helping my parents prepare food. I remember both my parents being in the kitchen. My mother baked a lot, and she would let me help. And that's one of the first things is so important as parents, is to include the kids and help them at an early age. And so she baked a lot of cakes and pastries and things like that. My father, I remember, he was the good cook, and he taught my mother how to cook and prepare meals because she did not know how. But he was a very good teacher, and she learned. And I learned a lot from him as well, because I would watch him and I would ask him, well, why are you doing this or why are you doing that? So that helped. And also, they helped me because I got a little braver, and I asked if I could start fixing dinners for them or just meals. Sometimes it was just lunches because my brother and sister would be coming home for dinner, and they let me. And sometimes they were wildly successful, and other times they were colossal fails. But they were always supportive, and that was very important to giving me or helping me foster just a love for cooking and a desire to prepare pleasing family meals.
So talking about family meals, how do you accomplish meal planning? I feel like when you start talking about cooking from scratch, you have to master, the planning part of it, for everything from grocery shopping to putting, different foods together. So what are some tips you have for someone who doesn't know much about meal planning or cooking from scratch? What would you suggest? based on your
Well, you're
experience.
right with what you're saying. It's organization on the front end, especially. You have to decide what you want to fix. Obviously, you can from meals at the restaurant. You usually have a protein, sometimes a bread, a vegetable, a salad, whatever. So you kind of incorporate all of the food groups as much as possible. Um, you start out deciding which recipes that you want to make. And really, if you're just starting out, probably for a week, just plan 3 or 4, maybe 5 at the most meals. Look in your pantry, in your refrigerator, see what ingredients that you still need to get at the grocery store. Go ahead and make that list. Go ahead and shop. And depending on your schedule, like right now, I'm alone. I just cook for 2 people, and so it's easy for me to prepare during the day. But if you're working outside the home, you need to um, decide how much prep time ahead of time you need. Like in the the weekends, you might want to get the meat prepared. Like if you're making a casserole, you might want to go ahead and prep the meat. Or sometimes, if you have time, go ahead and put it all together. But don't bite off too much at first. It's better to plan and then create the plan and then grow from there. So you have to be flexible. Um, you can, after making those few meals, you can always have a pizza night. You don't have to just fix food or prepare meals every single day, every single night.
Not all or nothing.
Yes, yes. And if you start out with that all or nothing attitude, you're going to end up with nothing because you're going to get so frustrated.
You're going to get burnt out.
Yes, you are, and you're going to get frustrated. And so, and you have to be flexible. If something doesn't work for one night, well, you have a fallback. You have something that you can fall back on, like, okay, I'll just make hamburgers, something like that. So that's really how, and it depends on your family. It depends on how many you have, obviously, and their tastes and everybody's families are going to be different. So I think we have a pantry list that we have included. That's going to be, you can take some, leave some, add some. It's whatever, like spices or sauces that you like to use and your family likes, and then just incorporate those. But that's what I would say. Just be flexible. Don't get frustrated. Don't get burned out. You can have a leftover night. If you have little bits, you can have just a meal of leftovers, and then that takes care of one night. A funny story. My mother used to try to put all of the leftovers together. Like, you can't do that with casseroles, but like with meats and vegetables leftover, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And she'd put it all into a casserole and she'd add a can of vegetable soup. And she'd put canned biscuits on the top and bake it. And she would have a casserole. And that's what we would have that night instead of just leftovers.
Why does that sound strangely familiar?
Oh, I may have done that. Oh, okay.
You told me you called it much too much.
My sister did, because she would, whenever she got, I love food, so it's hard to be, or displease me, whatever. No, she would look at the plate and think, "Oh, that's much too much. I don't want that much." So
I thought it meant much too much leftovers.
No,
you made the casserole.
It was much too much. No, but I almost always liked what it turned out to be. It was good.
Well, why don't we go back to, you were talking about the pantry staples.
Yes.
Do you have your list handy?
No.
Well, off the top, we will provide in the show notes a list of, just basic, it's not comprehensive, of some pantry staples we would suggest if you're planning to start cooking from scratch. So, but just just name maybe 5 to 10 things if you can, of what you
that I put on there because I put on a lot more than probably would be the rudimentary, basics. But I would say, depending on your needs, but I would say chicken stock. That you can use it when you're making rice. Rice is another one that's a good staple. Also, I put in, flour, sugar, all the different types of sugar, especially if you're going to bake, baking powder, baking soda, salt, pepper. I use so much of salt, pepper, and garlic powder. That's my staple spices, and then I go from there. But don't go overboard with your spices and herbs. Just use what you can grow it slowly because they don't last forever. And if you don't use it, if you just use a quarter of a teaspoon for this recipe, it's going to go bad if you don't use them.
So I have noticed since I've started dehydrating some of the herbs that we grow, like the thyme, the parsley, the cilantro, the color difference between what you get at the store and what you actually produce at home is drastic. I mean, it's like brown compared to green, and I always make sure I dehydrate it, of course, when it's still alive and green. So I don't know how long they sit on the shelf, or how long before it's harvested to the time it's dehydrated. And who knows, how much of the nutrients have dwindled out of the herbs.
Are they using the old fresh that didn't get sold and making it dehydrated?
That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, so just a tip on if you're even thinking about getting, growing herbs or starting a garden, if you dehydrate them little by little, I usually will pick a little bit and dehydrate it in batches, because obviously you want to keep picking and harvesting so it'll continue to grow during the summer. But anyways, that was my little tip on spices. So I'm sorry.
But there's quite a few other things, like in the refrigerator. You want milk, eggs, butter, just the basic things, and you probably already know almost everything. But it's basically common sense. What do I use? What do I use in a week? Or bread, hamburger buns, hot dog buns, if you plan to fix hamburger and hot dog buns. And of course, there are gluten-free possibilities now and choices. They used to not be. So if that's a problem, there's even gluten-free flour that you can use instead. So there's a lot of different options out there.
And so, and of course, I've just started, milling our own wheat, the hard white, hard red. I think that whole, idea of making your own bread from freshly milled flour, I feel like that's a steep learning curve for someone just learning to bake, to cook. So we won't really go there, but that is an option to, in the future when you step up your home cooking game, you can, look into freshly milled flour recipes. Buying a grain mill. I'll probably cover that in another topic in the future because I feel like that's a whole episode in itself. Yes. Okay, what cooking appliances could you not live without?
Well, obviously the stove and oven.
You gotta have a stove.
You gotta have a stove and an oven. That would be my first. And then the second and third would be the crock pot and the Instapot. Just because crock pot, I probably got my first crock pot as a wedding gift. And I use it all the time. In the morning, if I know I have a full day, I already have the meal planned out. So I have a full day. I'm going to go ahead and put the things in the crock pot, put it on low. I don't have to worry about it until that evening. Now, the Instapot does do the same thing as well. It can be a crock pot. Mine is not as big as my crock pot, so, that might be, but it depends on how many you're planning to cook for.
I think there's two different sizes of the Instapot. I know mine, I can fit a whole Boston butt or a whole chicken.
And mine's smaller.
And so, but yes, it is, you can set it, like if we're going to church and I want to set it for a couple hours, it's not time-based. It's just you set how many hours, from the time you set it, how many hours you want it to start cooking.
Right.
So, and then it'll keep it warm too once it stops cooking and, you know, the pressure's released, it'll still keep it warm. I could not live without my Instapot because I'm a very poor meal planner. And I definitely, and you can also cook multiple things in the same pot. So it's a one pot meal where you saute everything and you add the rest of your ingredients. So I kind of like that. There's less.
Yes, definitely. That is one big plus for the Instapot, being able to saute and then cook it as well.
We also have a smoker, and y'all have a grill also.
We have a grill, yes. I really don't use it much because, but my husband does. If we're having steak, because he loves steak, he'll cook it outside on the grill.
Y'all have a grill in the stove. Do you not use that very much? That function of it? Because if you were thinking about space saving, or if you had an apartment and you didn't have, you know, a deck or something, you might need a stove that had that function in it. If you were looking to do more of a grill.
Now, yes.
What about your air fryer? Don't y'all have an air fryer?
Yes.
Do you use it?
Not much.
Not much.
But one of the reasons is I'm old school. I didn't grow up with anything like that. I feel it's easier just to go back to what I know and what I'm used to and what I feel confident in. So, and sometimes I don't have the time to experiment and figure it out.
Right. And that it's even Brandon gets frustrated when he's trying to work the air fryer because he's frustrated if he's trying to like reheat some food. It takes longer than expected because it's basically like a mini oven.
Well, and the reason we got ours was during COVID, when our oven went out. So we didn't have an oven. So that's why I got the air fryer, and it was great then. It's basically, you know, just in case emergency. But
yeah. Well, I like it too. It's good for if you're cooking fries that have the little rotating basket because it'll keep turning, and then you can, you know, you don't have to remember to flip them and it gets them crispy.
Yeah, that's nice. I probably need to use mine more.
And it makes really good. It makes really good chicken wings too. I think I made some chicken wings one night when I came over for dinner. Okay, so moving on to some of your favorite recipes.
Okay. Well, I think we put in a couple of them, and I'm going to add another one before long.
We've added some in the show notes.
Yes, in the show notes, and I'd like to add another one.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
We'll talk about it later.
First of all, chicken to pan. That's been a staple in my family's, my parents, growing up, and I know in your house and in a couple of your siblings' houses, it's a staple. In fact, I'm fixing it tonight. I've already put it all together, so
it's so easy because you can freeze it. You can prepare it like a drop-off meal for someone at church, like someone's sick.
Yeah, and everyone loves it. Everyone loves it. It's so easy. It's almost like a comfort food. And then what I like to add with that is either a salad with a lot of fruit in it or just a fruit salad. I don't know why, but I've always liked to offset the taste.
It's a little bit salty. It's a little bit salty. Well. Yeah, I think it maybe the sweet and salty. You like that together?
Yes, I love sweet and salty.
Now I did double the sauce this last time because the first time I hadn't made it for a while, and then Brandon told me, he said, "Can you add a little more sauce on it the next time?" So I did.
I just doubled it, and now I use more than a half a cup of cheese that it calls for. I use about a cup.
Okay.
But I was able to, since I'm getting ready to go out of town in a few weeks and leave my husband here, I was able to make two. I made the one batch, but doubled the sauce, and I put it in 2 dishes, and it will feed him for several meals while I'm gone. And then we'll have it tonight and then leftovers.
And the basic ingredients for those of you listening, you can see the recipe in the show notes, but also the ingredients are basically just chicken, broccoli, and a cheese sauce. I mean, super simple. You can go with, any side, but a salad. Sometimes I fixed one time green beans with it. We try not to do as much, like rolls and that kind of thing. But
yeah,
so
us too.
And it does call for breadcrumbs, but if you're gluten free, you can leave that off.
No, and I like to sprinkle Parmesan cheese on top of it.
That's true. You can do that.
You can do that.
I had some heels of our homemade bread that I just threw in the freezer. And I just crumbled that up and put it on top. So you could either use the breadcrumbs or the cheese.
Another one is banana bread, which was my grandmother's recipe. It was my father's mother's recipe. And it's very easy to make and great source or resource to use overripe bananas that you can't eat. No one wants to eat because they're too brown. They're great in that recipe, and it calls for ripe bananas. So don't throw them away. Just throw them in the freezer. And then if you're not ready for bread, that's okay. You can wait until you're ready to bake it. Pull them out of the freezer a little early. And if you've taken the skin off, or if you haven't, you can pull the skin off at that point. I like to kind of take mine off because it's easier. I don't have to worry about it later when I get ready to bake. It's really good for breakfast or a snack. Sliced and put butter and toasted in the oven. It's really, really good then. So it can be for a dessert even because it is sweet. Now, if you want to alter that, you don't have to put the brown sugar top on. You don't have to add that. There's all sorts of things you can do to change it. But it'll still be good.
And I put my bananas in the freezer when they're almost, all brown. And then they just get more brown when they're in the freezer. But I don't put them in a bag or anything. I just throw them in.
And do you peel them?
No, I'll leave them in the skin. And I usually use them. I'll use the same banana bread recipe for muffins for the boys' breakfast. And then I'll put a little bit of little mini chocolate chips in there because it seems like if you have a hard time getting kids to eat anything, you can put chocolate and they'll eat it.
Yes, that's true. So I remind them and have.
I do use the chocolate chips. Yeah.
The other one that I am going to add, I haven't say anything about it yet. It's the crock pot roast that I always used to make. My father, he didn't have a crock pot, but he made one basically out of, I say made one. He used a Dutch oven and he put the roast, and that's how I learned it, the cream of mushroom soup and the onion soup mix. And he would put seal it all up in the Dutch oven and put it on low before we went to church. And then it would be all ready, like a low oven, maybe 325, something like that. But it's great. And then it makes its own gravy. And it's so easy. And then you just add a veggie and rice or potatoes, and you've got a really good Sunday dinner after church.
Kind of foolproof, because I also there's I think it's a Mississippi mud roast or something. I know Mississippi's the name of it, but it is all it is the roast, a stick of butter, which you don't have to use the whole stick. You don't want to. A packet of dry ranch mix and a whole jar of pepperoncini peppers. And then you mix it up, and it makes it just a little bit spicy. You can use that for the roast part. You could also use it for like taco night, make taco bowls with rice. What would be tacos then? Mexican night, whatever. We have Taco Tuesday in our house. So, but sometimes I would have fixed that as the meat, and it's a little bit spicy, and then you put it in all your tomato, onion, cilantro, and stuff, and kind of give it a lot of twist.
Sounds good. Yeah, good. But that was the other one I was going to have, and there may be more before we end up with the shipment.
So we'll put at least 3 recipes for y'all, just to a good meal base, and then you can add sides to it. But those are some of our favorite recipes. And also, I also wanted to talk about just, we've talked about different things that you need to have to succeed with meal planning, such as, your appliances, your pantry staples. I think time management is a big one we didn't really talk about.
Yes.
Once I've heard some speakers, homestead festivals, go down once a week on a Sunday, get everything out of your basement. Like if you have, stuff stored downstairs, get everything out of the freezer that you need for the whole week and bring it upstairs. Or if you have, a pantry downstairs in your basement, like we have a safe room where we store some of the canned goods that we make throughout the year from the garden. So like get everything that you're going to use and plan out your whole week. So you're not caught off guard or, unprepared. I don't do that very well. I've kind of planned day by day, but I do try to in the morning. I think, okay, at least I need to plan tonight's meal. Just start with a dinner meal because I feel like that's easier to do and pull everything out that morning so it can be thawing. So you already mentally think about what you're going to make for the dinner and you can, prepare what needs to be done ahead of time so you're not caught 7, 8 o'clock, which sometimes I am at night cooking dinner at 8 o'clock, maybe 8:30. So
getting ready to get to bed by then.
Yes. Depending on your lifestyle.
You're right. And if you don't have a big pantry yet, or big store of produce or meat or whatever, I would suggest at least on the weekend get the list, or it doesn't even have to be a weekend. It just depends on your schedule. But get a list of what you want to make that week and make sure you have everything you need. Go to the store and then you'll have it. And also, what is helpful is having a list on the refrigerator or wherever, somewhere in the vicinity, that you have a tentative list of meals that you're going to prepare that week. Now, again, flexibility is the name. There are things that happen, or someone says, I don't want chicken tonight, or I don't want whatever. You have a fall.
So this is really the last question that we wanted to talk about. Do you think that family mealtime in the home is important to the survival of American culture today? Or what is the importance of mealtime? Because a lot of people with our busy American lifestyle, we eat out or we're eating in a car. What is the importance of sitting down, at the meal table and doing that as a family as opposed to separately or mindlessly just eating in the car?
Well, I grew up eating as a family, and you do too. We tried to do that as much as possible. Obviously, again, flexibility, because I know kids are in sports. Things happen. You have different obligations or whatever. But as much as possible, because I just remember we grew closer as a family. I know when I was homeschooling you and Hunter, I still remember we had no internet because we live out in the country. Now we have internet, but we didn't at the time. And we would have had the schooling all day, and then we'd have our meal. And Dad would say the blessing, and the very first thing out of Hunter's mouth was, "So, Dad, what's happening in the world today?" And he really wanted to know, and that opened up. We learned about what was going on. That sparked a lot of good conversation. Conversation. I mean, I think one rule that you have to have today is no electronics, no TV, no cell phones, no nothing at the table or within earshot, because you are not going to really interact
you're going to be distracted.
Yes.
I've seen some, videos on Instagram and, reels that show the dad looking at the phone and the toddler comes up and then the toddler starts looking at the phone. They stop looking at each other and the toddler's trying to get his attention, and just the difference of the interaction with the kids and how technology just takes away from that. And it also, I think, sends a message to the kids that you're not important enough for me to give you my undivided attention. But I think it's important for, like you're saying, I think you mentioned this before, but the importance of talking about like what's going on in the world, but also from a biblical perspective, how we should react to those things, or, what does this mean for our family?
Right. Yes, definitely. Because, and you're passing on your parents' values, which has been lost, I think, and that might be one of the problems is because no one's having dinner together. Um, you're providing as the pair of meals, you're providing physically for them because it's a healthy meal. You know what's in it. You can control that. You're also providing for emotional security because you're talking about things. And the kids know that they can come to their parents and ask questions and get answers, and they feel closer to them. And then also, I think it provides spiritual stability because, at least for our family, we always start with a prayer. We talk about the Lord and we talk about things of God, and then if there's questions about that we can answer those. So I think those three areas are very important. They're vital for our country to prosper.
And talking about the spiritual aspect, that's really the time where Reagan gets the most practice with praying. I'll ask him to say the blessing, and it's something, he was shy to do at first, but now he does it, and it's just so sweet hearing his heart. And
it's because he realizes he can talk to God. Yes.
So
it's good.
But that was the main questions and everything that we wanted to cover for the podcast. So thank you for joining today. And
certainly, thank you for having me.
I'm sure we'll have you at some point in the future. She is my neighbor, y'all. So, and it's been such a blessing living close to family, living close to mom, and being able to know the boys have her just next door and can grow up, and we'll have lots of memories with mom. So anyways, I just wanted to close this out by encouraging you guys to, you guys can also go to our website, which is www. You guessed it, farmsteadforum.com, and subscribe to our newsletter. We are trying to get up some emails to, send out like a monthly newsletter. I'm not going to spam y'all. So go on there, let us know that you want to hear from us and find out what's going on with the podcast and with upcoming events, hopefully in the near future. And thanks for listening, and thanks for joining again, Mom.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. We'll see y'all later.
Hey, thanks for listening. Join our Facebook group and follow us on Instagram for the latest updates. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website for upcoming events. For sponsorship opportunities, reach out to us through our website. See you next time.